So I'm here in Norwich, Vermont, where our wonderful school was founded. We're at a site of one of the oldest cemeteries in Vermont, and it's the most important one in the history of our university. And these gates, these pillars, set the stage for us to take a walk to see Captain Partridge's burial site. His father was an American patriot. He was a revolutionary. He actually fought in the American Revolution. And from Partridge's birth through his death, he lived that patriot's life. So many of the people in this graveyard were alive when Partridge returned, having been the superintendent at West Point, to establish his own school in 1819, with the first classes to be held in 1820. So this is a very old graveyard in Vermont, but the most important to us as those who love Norwich. So let's go for a walk. We look at the cemetery, and what's the most obvious marker here? It's that obelisk right in the center, and that obelisk is to Captain Partridge. So here we are. There is a gate, like in so many graveyards. Partridge written in bold letters at the base. And then as we come inside, Captain Alden Partridge. As we go around to the back side, it talks about sons. Partridge had two. George, August 4th, it looks like 38 through May 12th, 1855. And Henry V. Neither one of these two had any offspring, or as our wonderful historian Gary Lord would say, had any issue, which means there was no living legacy of Partridge directly. Partridge actually married late in life to Anne, and the two sons and Anne are buried here. So here's father, that's Captain Partridge, our Captain Partridge, mother, Henry, and here's George. So this is the family plot, because there is no more family after this, except us. We are the Partridge offspring. On this other side, it says this monument is erected by Captain George M. Colocareses, United States Navy, to the memory of his benefactor and friend. This is a very important part of this statue. In fact, it was the Colocareses family that left the money to build this plot. He was buried here, but he didn't have such a huge obelisk in his memory. And if you read the Citizen Soldier book in the first chapter, there's a picture of George Colocareses. In fact, Partridge, although kind of a rough guy, kind of like, I'm sure he yelled at students regularly, had a huge heart. And he adopted him. He was maybe not formally adopted in the way that we think of adoption today, but he was like a ward of his. And he was an orphan from Greece and the Greek-Turkish wars. And Partridge adopts him and brings him to the United States to teach him at his academy. He goes on immediately to serve in our Navy, a distinguished career. And his son, who's named actually for Partridge Colocareses, is a Manila with Dewey, and eventually becomes an admiral in our Navy. So the first one, the captain in our Navy, in his estate leaves money to remember his benefactor, which is what they called him, and friend. If it wasn't for them, we wouldn't have this beautiful marker or this special place. When we held this ceremony to remember Partridge in September, one of the Colo-Corez's family was here. And they've had actually a great-great-great-grandchild graduate from Norwich during my presidency. The family goes right to the origins of our school. And so classic that they would serve America, this Greek immigrant, in our Navy. So that's what we can learn from this statue and why it's here. And that's why you are here, because I know many of you have not seen this place. And Jeff Holden and I wanted to bring it to you so that you could see it. So we're only about a block and a half from the actual site of our school, and I'm going to take you there now. Some of you have seen that, I know, but many of you have not. The Village Green, and that's where, of course, Partridge marched his corps. So let's go for a walk.